Bonjour. That is all the French I know. I'm sorry, but I will do my best in the next hour to share with you in English a little bit about our company and what we know about the luxury real estate market and the affluent consumer from around the world. So I will today talk to you about the US consumer, but also all of our brokers and clients from everywhere around the world. So our goal in the next 1 hour is to talk about what luxury real estate is, what it means everywhere we go. We're going to look at the global affluent and what it means to be affluent, specifically who they are, how they think, and their expectations for a real estate professional. Can I have this monitor on, gentlemen, down here? Thank you. Down here? We're going to talk about how luxury real estate online has responded, how the real estate world has responded to the affluent consumer, and how the world is changing. And we're going to talk about best practices in luxury real estate web development. So that's a lot in 1 hour. I will go ahead and get started. As the introducer shared with you, I'm from a company called Leading Real Estate Companies of the World, and I work for our luxury portfolio division. We're headquartered in Chicago. Thank you. Headquartered in Chicago, but we also have offices in London, right outside of Trafalgar Square, as well as offices in Singapore. We've been around for 50 years, and we're a network of independent real estate brokerages. And by independent, I mean not affiliated with a franchise, so local branded companies. Today, we're 500 real estate brokerages all across the world. We have 120,000 real estate agents selling property in over 50 countries. And we have 3,500 offices around the world, so we're quite a large organization. But in Paris, we work with partners. So in Paris, we work with Daniel Feo, Billionaire, and Juno, of course. So these are the names that you would know us by locally. So we're this collection of local independent brands. So in New York, people would know us by Stribling or Halstead. And in New Zealand, people would know Barfoot and Thompson. So we're locally branded names, but connected through the network in over 50 countries. And this is the Leading Real Estate Companies of the World brand. So if you go onto our website, Leading RE, you can find a broker anywhere in the world. But I specifically work for our luxury division. It's called Luxury Portfolio. And we were started about 10 years ago to help our brokers and agents to market their high-end properties. So we know a lot of things about the affluent consumer, and we do that through luxuryportfolio.com, as well as through a lot of print as well. But mostly I'm going to talk to you today about the website and luxuryportfolio.com. So today, we attract millions of high net worth people to the website. And on the website, we market the $1 million plus properties of our brokers, so our companies. We market over 40,000 homes annually, and we have members and listings in every state in the US, as well as, again, 50 countries around the world. We do attract people from all 200 countries every month, so it's a very international audience. We're in 9 languages and in 60 currencies. So the languages, they're a bit tricky, as you may know, to convert languages on your website. And ours is a combination of manual translation, so human beings, as well as automated translation. Because we have 40,000 listings, they're not all manually automated, but we would love them to be. And then today we do have almost half of our traffic comes from mobile devices, which is fascinating because that's changed a lot just in the last 3 years. 3 years ago, only 12% of our traffic came from mobile devices. So the world is changing. The affluent consumer is driving a lot of that change, and it's changing very, very quickly. So this is what luxuryportfolio.com looks like today. And again, this is just for the members of Leading RE. Just to give you an example of what our website looks like, and I'm going to talk about why we've designed the website the way we have. And some existing properties that we're marketing, and you see through Juno and Daniel Feo and Belldemour, we have a lot of great Parisian listings as well. But we want to talk first about what luxury real estate is. And essentially, we work with the top 10% of all of the markets around the world. So that's by price point generally. But globally, we define a luxury home as something that is at least 1 million US dollars or 911,000 euro right now. So that's not very much here in Paris, and we know that, but it's about 1 million US dollars. What luxury is ultimately, it's the best. It's the best location, and location drives luxury. It's the best view, the best finishes, the best amenities, and of course, the best marketing. It requires the best marketing. So we ask consumers, what is luxury, and how would you define luxury today? And 10 years ago, when we started the program, when we asked people what luxury meant to them, they used words like art, or scarce, or expensive. The most interesting thing is in 10 years, the way the affluent consumer defines luxury today is entirely different. Today, we ask consumers to define luxury, and they use words like healthy, or mobile, or global. And the reason for that change is because this consumer has changed significantly in only a 10-year period. The world in 2005 and the world in 2015 are entirely different, and the expectations of the affluent consumer have changed significantly in that time. We know today that luxury is experiential. And by that, I mean it's not about buying a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment in Paris. It's about buying a place that has a phenomenal location with a wonderful view. We're driven by the experience we're going to have in our real estate today, particularly in luxury. It's not about having a roof over your head or a shelter decision. It's an emotional decision, and it's based on experience. So what we've seen is a shift from having, when people wanted to own something, to being. And I'm going to illustrate this for you outside of real estate, because we are very influenced by other luxury brands. And of course, we love luxury. And so the best that you can ever look at is LVMH, is Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. And you all know these wonderful brands very, very well. This is a group that understands luxury marketing, and they understand the application of being rather than having. And I'll show you a great example. This is a beautiful ad that Louis Vuitton, it's a fairly recent ad, and it says at the bottom, is there any greater journey than love? And I love that, because what does that have to do with buying a purse? Not a lot, right? It's not about the purse, it's about the experience of owning the purse. And if you own Louis Vuitton, you're gonna have a gorgeous boyfriend, and your bags are part of your life, and you have a wonderful lifestyle. So it's about experience. So we are very inspired by Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton has another campaign they're running right now it's called the Spirit of Travel. And Louis says, whoever lives sees, but whoever travels sees more. They know that people see the world, they experience the world more. So they run ads that look like this, totally different for Louis Vuitton. And Louis Vuitton is saying that we're a little bit irreverent, we're having a little bit of fun, and we know that today's affluent consumer wants to have fun. Because if I'm gonna spend 3,000 US dollars on a Louis Vuitton bag, it's because it's worth it, and because I'm worth it, because I worked so hard. So you see, it's an emotional connection for the affluent consumer. They're making a decision differently. And it drives the way we all market to them, and what you do on the web has to change and be different because of this. So we know today that worldwide wealth is growing significantly. It's been a good few years to have significant wealth. And this is what the distribution of wealth across the globe looks like, the percentage of world wealth. So the United States still holds about 34% of the affluence of the world. Following, after the United States, number 2 is now China at about 9%. So it's growing significantly year over year, and China is an interesting story. After China, we see Japan, then the UK, and you see I'm already down to 6%, France and Germany, Canada, and then truly we start to see across the globe the distribution fill in. So we start to understand that when we're selling luxury real estate, it's critically important to have a global mindset because the world of affluence comes from all over the world. So last year, my group, we published a white paper called The Emerging Class of Global Affluent. And we asked our research company to help us understand the differences between what an affluent consumer wants from Paris versus somebody from London versus somebody from New York. And we thought, if they're from different places around the world, they want different things. Ultimately, we found that that wasn't true. In fact, they all wanted the same things. The global affluent are literally today a club. They've begun to know one another, and they care about the same things, and they're behaving the same way, no matter where they came from. So we say they're united. They have the same interests. They're interested in themselves, their families, their businesses, and their future. Very, very simple things. They're interested in cross-ownership. So they've begun, because this club has happened, they've begun to invest in the same places around the world. They go on vacation in the same places. Our world has gotten much, much smaller in the last 10 years. So they have similar pastimes. But the best news for us in the real estate space is that they have increased their spending on lifestyle categories. So things that make them, that make their lives better. So whether it's real estate, travel, entertainment, fashion, or automobiles, all of the categories across the globe have seen major increases in spending from our global affluent. We know that the top 1% globally own on average 4 homes. They invest in real estate, they understand the value of real estate, and they invest in it in multiple places around the world. They're very comfortable traveling, they're very comfortable with investing in real estate markets that they don't necessarily know. And that's, again, why on our luxury real estate websites, it's critically important to focus on that global consumer. So the global affluent today, in general, they're 50 years old plus, but they're younger in spirit. And by that I mean that being 50 today is the new 30. It's life, and you're living, and to be 50 is to enjoy the world today and the affluence that they have achieved. They're leading longer and healthier lives, and they're going to live longer than any generation before them. We have a lot of great advances in healthcare. They look better than any generation before, lots of new technologies. But they're tech savvy. They're first adopters, and they're the first ones to try the new iPhone, the new iPad, whatever the case may be. They love technology. So that's why, again, it's important for us to be on the forefront of technology. They're very resourceful in their decision making. They have access to the internet, they have great resources, they have wonderful advisors that help them make decisions, and so they gather all that information before they make decisions. They don't make decisions casually any longer. And perhaps the most fascinating insight about today's global affluent is generally they made their own wealth. They still did not grow up with a lot of wealth. Now, it's different when we start to look at their children and grandchildren, but today's 50-year-old plus affluent generation generally made their own wealth. And I'm going to give you an example of this. This is the Forbes billionaire list, right? So the global billionaire list, just before I do that, 85% of the global affluent that are 50 years old plus made their own wealth. In fact, at the bottom, only 3% inherited their wealth. So I mentioned we look at their children and their grandchildren. They are now, they call them the new aristocracy because they're beginning to inherit the wealth of their parents and grandparents. But for the 50-year-old generation, they made their wealth. And here are my examples. So Bill Gates is number 1 on the billionaire list. Of course, he's from Microsoft. And you see right there his source of wealth, he's self-made. Number 2 on the Forbes billionaire list is Carlos Helú. He's from Mexico, and he's a telecommunications billionaire, excuse me. And again, he's self-made. Number 3, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett from Berkshire Hathaway, self-made. Number 4, Amancio Ortega. So he's Xenia, ladies. You all know Xenia. He's number 4 on the global billionaire list, and he's self-made. And then number 5, of course, is Larry Ellison from Oracle, and he's also, again, self-made. So the way somebody makes decisions when they've made their wealth versus if they inherited their wealth is totally different. So we need to, again, talk to them differently based on where their money came from. But consistently, when I say it's a global club and they all know one another and they want the same things, when we ask them what's important to you, they say, I want to be happy. That's the first thing they want, is to be happy. They want health, and they want family, and they want the things that are very close to their hearts, very almost, we call it middle class values, the things that are very, very simple. And that's wonderful because we know that the home and real estate can give them all of those things. So we ask then this affluent group, we said, what is it that you want from real estate professionals? How can we serve you better in the purchase or sale of your next property? And I think it's important to understand that. They really want us to equip them with knowledge and insight, and technology plays a huge part in that. They want technology to help them feel equipped with knowledge and insight. They want you to be respectful of their time and their privacy. Privacy is of the utmost concern for the most affluent people in the United States and around the world, and they want to know that you're aware of that. And technology scares them a little bit because of that. So we need to keep that in mind. Privacy matters. They want you to be interested in their lifestyle and relate to it. So understanding luxury brands and what's happening in the luxury space is very, very important. They want their real estate professional to be well respected and well thought of, a very good name. They want to have fun in the process and make the process enjoyable. You know, this is something that they feel they deserve to purchase a luxury property, and they want to have fun in the process of doing that. And then last but not least is they want to be, you to be affiliated with a global network or know that there is some sort of connection to global. So our brokers and agents have the opportunity to do that, but it's not, there's lots of global organizations and a lot of global websites as well. So making sure that we make them aware of the fact that they have a global presence is very, very important to them. So if I look at best practices for luxury web development, we looked at a few things to say, what have we learned from our experience as well as from the experience of our brokers and our companies around the world? The first thing, and this shouldn't surprise you based on everything I've shared, is to embrace the concept of lifestyle. It's about more than just real estate and the real estate properties. It's important to also be about everything that's associated with the luxury lifestyle. So luxury brands. And I'll give you a few examples. This is one of our brokers in Geneva, Switzerland. It's called CI Exclusive Properties, or Comptoir. CI is their luxury brand. And you'll see that on CI Exclusive Properties website, you can do a search by lifestyle. And if you saw Matthew Ferrara speaking earlier this morning, he talked a bit about this as well. He was the first speaker this morning. And the fact that it's important on a website to be able to search by lifestyle. So in this case, you can search by urban properties, you can search by whatever you like. The way in which you are going to live in the property is as important as the size of the property or how many bedrooms and how many bathrooms it has. It's not about description, it's about being, right? It's that shift from having to being. Another great example of this is a company called Michael Saunders & Company. They're in Sarasota, Florida. And Sarasota is a beach community where they have a lot of 55-plus people moving there, so people that are moving there to retire. So on the Michael Saunders & Company website, any consumer can search by, say, 55-plus, and they'll find real estate properties that meet that lifestyle. They also can search for island life, or golf and tennis, or suburban living, or even master communities. So it's very well, it's smart to categorize things according to the way people will live. Another great example is in Germany, a broker that we work with named Van Poel. And Van Poel, on their website, has a link to their magazine. And their magazine is very, very well done because it's all about the luxury lifestyle. They show properties and lots of fabulous real estate, but they show, it literally looks like a high-gloss, fabulous fashion magazine. And what I like about it too, so this is an example of a spread they did recently, is that it's all translated. It's in German and it's completely in English as well. So you see where you've got the headline and then it says, home comforts for explorers. And they understand the insight into the luxury consumer that they want to explore and travel the world. So they've done a very, very nice job. The company's Van Poel in Germany. They're all over Germany. And then, of course, on luxuryportfolio.com, my site, there's a couple things that we've done to focus on the lifestyle experience, too. One is, again, a lifestyle search. So if you look for specialty, you can do a search for, say, ski properties, and then we'll take you right to a result based on the lifestyle that someone would lead on the site. We also have a magazine. And so right on the homepage, we link to a magazine as well as our e-newsletter we do called Luxury Trends. And again, the idea is not about real estate, it's about everything associated with the world of luxury. We do a different theme 8 times a year, and the last one was just about athletics and sports and the way in which the affluent consumer lives today, and health is very important to them. And then, our magazine. So we link right to the magazine from the homepage of the site. We do a magazine that turns, an e-magazine, and we track all of the traffic to the magazine too. So number one was depict lifestyle. Number 2 is depict heritage. And by this I mean that the affluent consumer today cares a lot about history and heritage, and the brands that have a lot of history matter to them. And you don't have to have been around for a long, long time. You need to just tell the story about your company or your brokerage or your technology site, whatever the case may be. So again, I like to look outside of real estate to be influenced. And this is an example of Armani. So Armani is doing a campaign right now called Tribute or Attribute. And they're looking at 40 years of the Armani brand. And on their website, they've dedicated to different categories of what they have done design-wise in the last 40 years. So you'll see 40 years of Armani, and they did a tribute to the suits. So they're telling the history of their Armani brand. And that's very important. So we've seen our brokerages begin to do that as well in a very elegant and emotional way. So this is an example of our company called Remontco in Valencia, Spain. And they have a beautiful black and white photo, and it says since 1959. You click on that, and then they depict the heritage of the brand, the history of the company, and they tell the story of the family company. Another lovely example of this is a company in Switzerland called VTAG. VTAG is in Ticino, so it's right near the Italian border in Switzerland, and they do a nice job of telling the story. They haven't been around as long. They've been around since the mid-'70s, and they're saying, here is the heritage of our brand, our history, and where we came from, because we know the affluent care about that today, and heritage helps someone be more comfortable making a large investment. So that was number 2. Number 3 is large and plentiful photography. And I can't stress enough how important it is to have beautiful photography when we're marketing special homes, expensive homes. It's very, very important that we invest in beautiful professional photography and to make it large. And I can't tell you how difficult it is when you go to a website, you see very small photos. So a couple examples of this. This is one of our brokers in England called Strutt & Parker. And if you go to the property detail page on the Strutt & Parker website, click on the little plus sign, and they go to a very nice view of the photos, very, very large. And this is for every one of their properties in the luxury division. So they focus on really showing making you feel as though you're in the space. Another great example is a company in St. Bart's called Seabarth. And of course, in St. Bart's, everything is beautiful, right? So they take advantage of that with their very large photography. So this is the property detail page. Every property on their website has this level of quality and photography, very, very large. There's no white space. It's all a photo. And it really makes you feel as though you're in the experience. You're in the apartment or the house. They do a really nice job. So large and plentiful photography is number 3. Number 4 is to be bold with technology. And you might remember I said that today's affluent consumer, they are early adopters. They're very comfortable. And so we really encourage our luxury brokerages to take chances and to try new technologies and to really be out there, because we know that the affluent consumer expects that. So I want to give you a couple of examples of companies that I think are really interesting. There's a lot of fabulous ones here, and I've walked the floor, and everybody's doing very similarly themed things, and that is with photography. But I really like this company. It's called Matterport. This is a company that's based in Silicon Valley in the United States, in California. And they have a camera that our brokerages can purchase. And they put the camera inside the room, and it scans the room, and it makes it like virtual reality. So then they can put a link to it on their website, and for the consumer, it's like walking through the property. It's really spectacular, and it's really, I think, the cutting edge of luxury real estate marketing. Another very simple example of things that have really taken off in the last couple years is drone photography. And of course, we're hearing and seeing a lot about drone photography in the last few years. And we're seeing companies that focus on specific markets, and we're starting to see companies that do global services for drones all over the world. And drone photography really gives you something easily that historically you would have needed a helicopter or an airplane to see. My favorite example is this next one, which is, this is a house that without a drone, you could never really express the location of the property. And so for luxury real estate marketing today, this is the level of technology which the consumer expects. And then in terms of luxuryportfolio.com, and what we always encourage our brokers and agents, of course, is to make sure that all websites are mobile friendly. So we obviously look great on a desktop, but then your website also needs to look fantastic on a tablet, and your website also has to look fantastic on any kind of mobile device. And again, we heard this morning about the way in which you navigate on a mobile device, and it's important that the website not just be a replica of your existing site, it needs to really understand the way in which people use mobile devices. So this is not nice to have, this is required for luxury real estate marketing today, is to be very, very mobile friendly. So number 5 is to drive traffic from multiple sources. And this is also related to the mobile conversation. And what I mean by that is search engine optimization is not enough anymore. People are not, as I showed you, only 50% of the traffic to my website comes from desktops. So search engine optimization is great. It's important to be able to drive traffic from the search engines, but it's also equally important to look at all of the other sources of traffic. So embracing mobile and new technologies is critical for today's luxury marketing. A great example of this is a broker in New York called Halstead Property. And Halstead Property has just launched a new app that's designed specifically for the Apple Watch. And so this is a way in which people who use their Apple Watch can search for real estate on their watch. Of course, it's a much smaller screen. So a mobile-friendly site isn't going to look good on a watch. And so this is a very cutting-edge way in which people can market to the affluent today, people that are early adopters of the Apple Watch. Now we're selling real estate from the watch. Pretty amazing. Another great example is, of course, social media. So if we're optimizing for search engine optimization, we're optimizing for mobile and new technologies, and we have to make sure we're still embracing social media and all new social media too, because of course it's constantly changing. And so Instagram is a good example of that. Pinterest is a great example. It's not just about Facebook anymore, and we see the affluent consumer using all of these social media sites very regularly. So even though they're 50 plus, they're still using social media. So you need to have a presence there too. This is a great example, again, of Stratton Parker, our broker in England, and the way in which they've integrated a link to social media. So you'll see on every one of their property detail pages, you can share the listing through Facebook, through Twitter, through Pinterest, whatever social media site you're using. So it's a nice way to take advantage of the opportunities that social media can do for driving traffic. And number 4 is print. And I know I'm here to talk about technology, but I will tell you that print in luxury still matters, and it still matters a lot. When we launched our site 10 years ago, we expected it was just going to be a website, and we quickly learned that people expected us to be in magazines. They expected us to offer lots and lots of offline advertising too. So we found that we can't just be on the web when you're marketing luxury. It has to be in print as well. So we started to advertise in places like Velocity Magazine, Unique Homes in China. I mentioned the Chinese consumer, and so we're doing print in China. But the important thing to understand about our print is that the whole goal is to drive traffic back to the website. So you'll see we always have our website, luxuryportfolio.com, front and center in all of our print advertising. And we do codes to track it to make sure that we know where people are coming from. And again, it's a 360 view of marketing. So number 6, I have 8 total. So number 6 of best practices for luxury real estate web development is to manage the lead process. And this might be a little counterintuitive, but I think it's important to know that the affluent consumer is not as likely to select a contact me button on a real estate website, because privacy is something, again, that they're very worried about. So they're not going to say, email an inquiry to a strange broker on a website that they may not know. In fact, we did research and we said, when you're on a luxury real estate site, what do you do when you find a property that you're interested in? And they said, we pick up the phone and we call my advisor, my real estate professional. So it's important when you're managing the success of a luxury real estate site to know that email and inquiry may not be as high as you think it might be. So they're not going to use the contact us now. They're not going to fill out a lot of forms and give you a lot of information, because privacy matters. So you need to be creative and find other ways to track success and how traffic is coming to your website. So some good examples of this are web codes. So I mentioned we do a lot of print. So in the Wall Street Journal, every one of our properties has a code, and then we put a number. It might have a letter code, ABC, and then we put a number, say 4, at the end of it, and we know 4 means the Wall Street Journal. So when someone comes to our website and they type in ABC4, we know they came from the Wall Street Journal. So it's a creative way to track the way in which we're driving traffic to the website from other places. Here's a good example too. On a Halstead website, they have a web number that's unique to their property, so they know when someone's searching for it, how to identify it. The second thing is to use a unique phone number. So you can use web codes, or you can use a unique phone number that's specific for a property. So when someone calls, if they're not going to email, if they call, you can track where that call came from. And then the most important thing, I think, is to develop offline behavior too, because it's wonderful to have great technology, but it's important that we do basic things like talk to clients and ask them, how did you find us? What website did you find this property on? And so you can understand their search behavior, because sometimes it's harder to understand that when you just look at the data and the websites. And then in terms of the manage the lead process, the last thing I thought I would just share is to remember, when you're marketing to a global consumer, you need to tell them as much about their experience as they're telling you. And so this is a good example. When someone submits an inquiry on luxuryportfolio.com and they say, I'd like to have more information about this property, we give them a success message back that it says, please be advised that it's Friday, October 30th in Virginia, and the current time is 3:53 a.m. So it may be 11 o'clock in the morning in Paris, but it's important to know that it's 3 o'clock in the morning in Sarasota, or Chantilly, Virginia, so they're not going to be calling you back in the next 20 minutes because it's 3 a.m. there. And so remembering that global mindset is very important. And speaking of globally, we again know that the top 1% own 4 homes all around the world. And so speaking globally is very important too. So we always tell all of our brokerages and agents that it's important that they share the fact that they have global affiliations. And a couple of very nice examples of that is a broker we have in Tuscany called Palo de Kika. And on the bottom of their website, they list all of the places in which they affiliate from around the world. So Leading RE, Luxury Portfolio, they're part of something called the Italian Network, and they're telling consumers, we're going to help market your property around the world. Another nice example of this too is a broker in Turkey called Ayakan. And what they do, I think, is very nice. They put the thumbnails of the magazines and where we're marketing and advertising their brand all around the world. And then on the far right, you'll see it says, we are local, we are global. And that's a message saying we're a local brand, but we have global reach. And for Affluent today, it's important to talk about this. And then linking out to their affiliations too. And then this is a nice, Belldomero here, of course, is, I think they've done a nice job. They link to properties abroad, and the properties are right there on their website. So they're helping their client to reach properties all over the world. They don't have to go to lots of other websites. And that's another thing we do for them too. So ensuring they're aware of the affiliation, educating them about how to purchase real estate in your market, because they may not know how someone would buy, say, a flat in France, and to say, this is what's required of you. So this is a very nice example in Mauritius, a broker we have called Park Lane. And Park Lane has a section on their website called Foreign Acquisition. And in it, they walk through what it takes to purchase a property in Mauritius if you're not a Mauritius citizen. They do this on the website, and they also do this in their email. So every time the broker of Park Lane emails somebody, at the bottom of his email is a section that says how to buy property in Mauritius. Of course, it doesn't go into all the detail, but it tells people the expectations of if you're thinking of purchasing real estate here, here's what you need to keep in mind. So it's a little bit low tech, but also just shows you he's speaking globally. This is a brokerage called Zabel in Berlin. And Berlin's a obviously very growing international city, and it's a very exciting city. And what Zabel has done is created a section on their website, which is a guide to buying real estate in Berlin. And they've broken out into many sections in a lot of detail about if someone's wanting to purchase in Berlin who's not from Berlin, how to buy property there. So it's very well done. Then also something to keep in mind is that strategic syndication makes sense. And I'm not an advocate for putting listings everywhere on every website all around the world. And I think there's a nice thing about being a little bit more reserved. However, if you make it a strategic decision about partners that are very valuable to you, then it makes a lot of sense to get your listing out as many places as you can, or your property, and make sure that your property is seen. So you can use services like World Posting, which is here, and World Posting will syndicate listings to over 50 real estate websites around the world. In my case, we have a partnership with them, and so we've selected specific websites that are a little bit more luxury focused, and we syndicate to just those websites. We also have done things like create strategic partnerships. So there's a website in China called Juai, and Juai is really helping us market to that very affluent Chinese consumer that's making a lot of money, and they're taking their money out of China and they're investing it in other places. And so Juai has become a very great strategic partner for us, Luxury Portfolio. So if you run a real estate website, or you're helping influence a real estate website, to understand where the traffic is coming from and to look at strategic partners in those locations makes a lot of sense. So just to sum it up for you in terms of best practices in luxury web development, the first one is to, again, embrace lifestyle. Remember that it's not a shelter decision. People make a purchase of luxury real estate based on emotion and lifestyle. So be sure that the websites that you're working with, or the brokerages, or the technologies help you to market beyond just real estate. Depict heritage, talking about history of a brand and where you came from matters to the affluent today. Remembering large and plentiful photography and the experience of standing in a room with that 360 technology and experiencing what it's like. The affluent consumer expects that. Being bold with technology, so taking chances, embracing things like we're seeing here today, and new technologies and trying new things. Driving traffic from multiple sources, so remembering social media and mobile and everything that comes with that. Managing the lead process and knowing that the affluent today may or may not actually click on an email and inquiry, so they're going to come from other places, and creating tracking to put that in place. And then speaking globally. So knowing that the affluent consumer is from a global perspective, and they're very comfortable with that, and they expect their real estate broker to have a global perspective. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up, but the one thing I'll tell you is that we do have that white paper I mentioned. It's called The Emerging Class of Global Affluent. And the paper has a lot of great insights, and I'm more than happy to share it with anyone who would like a copy of it. So I've put my email up on the screen. It's spfeffer@luxuryportfolio.com. And if you want to email me, I'm happy to email you a copy of the white paper, and I hope that you find it valuable in your business. That's all I have for you. Thank you for your time today.